folks. Okay, we left yesterday's market wanting to be a buyer. We said if the E-mini sold, might have to pay as high as 21s to get in. The E-mini did not sell. It recovered into its close yesterday and held until S period in the overnight session. London retested yesterday the overnight session's high and is held, and we started down from there. Weakness in the E-mini has supported this contract. You can see the London low came from right there. Now what I do is I go in when I first look at structure, and I do find the absolute low volume number, and right there it is at 07. It was at yesterday's high. Then I look for the attractor in the middle. Then I try to line up salient points around these value area lows, etc., value area highs, and we see what we got. Rule number 1 trades, low volume numbers are support and resistance and can be traded as such. So you could add a resting limit order at 8 or better, 8.5 if you really wanted to get in, just based on the structure, and you would get back up to the, if this number held, you would get back up to this high volume number. Then after that, we're going to look to the E-mini for help. So this reliability at the edges is what makes the tuition costs so low in this particular contract, and why you should consider it. If you don't have a bottom line, if the E-mini has frustrated you, that's why you should consider this contract as your primary learning vehicle. When you get good at this and you want E-mini returns, go trade the bond. It'll beat the E-mini returns. 31.25 a tick in the bond as opposed to 12.50 in the E-mini and 15.62 in this one. That 31.25 means that even when you scratch a trade, you've got a pretty good shot at making a tick, covering commission costs and making a little. So anyway, everything on this is a P. Everything is pointed higher. The rhetoric that'll come out of the IMF, World Bank, G20 has spoken, is still just rhetoric. Nobody's voting dollars. Nobody's voting capital. Nobody is saying that these banks require this amount of capitalization. The stress tests in Europe, I don't know how many banks failed it, but hard capital put into these failing banks, merger of these failing banks is in the cards right now, and one or the other will happen. So rhetoric, we're past rhetoric right now. The market wants to see hard dollars put in. What might stop the market from rallying today? Options expiration. This is one of those times when we could actually get a squeeze going because the numbers are so far out. Looking at 131, 132 is where the options lined up in yesterday's market for today's close, somewhere between 131 and 132. That makes sense. Up until yesterday, it was 129 to 131. So we could actually see a squeeze today on that one. And the numbers are so broad in the bond, they really don't make sense. 138 to 142 is where it has been up until yesterday. And then yesterday they went out at 144, and we're trading 146. So the biggest potential for a squeeze will be in the bond, not the note. So I'm guessing we probably will close this thing below 130 today if the selling doesn't get out of hand in the E-mini. If the selling gets out of hand in the E-mini and we start to trade above 132 in the note, then the potential for a squeeze in the bond and the note goes up dramatically. Okay, we had hoped to be able to buy 13s to 17s. But that one's gone, so maybe 17s to 21s to get started, kind of like yesterday afternoon, depending on what goes on in the E-mini. And then our preferred buy based on a trading range option expiration will be down in the 9 to 13 area. But the E-mini continues to sell. This contract should trade higher. No news to drive today's trading, so Fed intervention in the E-mini is something we'll have to look for, perhaps an announcement out of the IMF and the World Bank. But, you know, the IMF and the World Bank are funded by the EU and the United States, and so really a statement by them doesn't mean a hell of a lot. The most important statement was by G20, and G20 said that we're doing nothing today, but we're prepared to do something should the need occur. Hit the bids, and the E-mini, take the offers in the note. So generally speaking, based on what's going on in the markets, the news is generally favorable or bullish or positive for the financials, and not so for the equities. And that's the assessment that we come up with the news, is generally bullish, generally bearish, or neutral. Okay, we usually retest the breakouts once. So if the market comes down and we can't crack this 20 area plus or minus, then we can get long to come up and retest that high. And so you'd like to come down and see a bar hit, and then the next bar have a higher low and take out the bar that tested support high. You're in the market to come back up and retest this high. Or if you want to play against the mode, you got a resting limit buy at 19.5, 17.5 to 19.5. You'll see what happens. For those of you that like our RTF trade, there's an RTF trade right there for you. There's an RTF trade for you. And it took a while for this trade to develop, but develop it did. Okay, in the Y period, they probed lower. They got stops below yesterday's low. So the exchange members of the CME that are work the E-mini to a fairly well are grinning. They were licking their chops before. Now they're grinning because they got stops below the M period low yesterday. And we're back into the trading range. So structure-wise, everything on this says lower. Now, this is what makes the E-mini so tough to trade. Here's the low in the 1206 area. Here's the low, 1202, 1203. Well, you certainly got every stops that were 2 ticks below that number, and that's, you got to have it at least 2 ticks outside whatever the pivot highs and pivot lows are. They got stops below 5 around number, and they pushed it lower. So where's a good place for your stop on this contract? And, you know, that's one of the questions of the ages. Just hard to say. Okay, 10 to 12 was support. It's now near resistance. 15 to 17 would be the second band. And then basically 24 to 25 would be our third band of resistance. Selling against this number up here or a little bit above that would offer us the best trade, in my opinion. But it's going to take something to get there. Like we got to rally 20 handles to do it. So if we don't get through 11-12, which is the obvious point of resistance, and I think we can get a little bit above that, then we got a fairly weak market. We need to jump on it in anticipation of taking out this low right here. Think we still have a shot at our 14s to 16 sell. Let these guys take it up, which they're want to do. Knock the weak length out, then we jump on board and see if we can extend the range lower, and if we can't, then it's okay to get long and see if we can get back up into this 25 area, give or take. Yesterday, the late sells were at 28 to 30. Revisited that spot several times yesterday, then 33 to 35. So in the market's memory, say resistance is basically 30 to 35. So it takes a lot of wood to get through to get up to that. Yeah, that would be my guess, Mark. It stops below 1100. These guys like to do. It's their job to aggravate the retail account, the newbies coming into the market, get all their money that the newbies are willing to spend. And they're really good at that job. They shine. Okay, structurally right here you can see 10 to 12. It's our first resistance band. Then here's our 15 to 17. We like to execute at our second level, so this one is still open, but I don't know if we'll get it there. Then the mean green trades in the 2021 area. Obviously, we got to break 02 to stay with this particular trade. This is a pretty big number. The United States 5 broker-dealers that are too big to fail haven't come in and started supporting this market yet, so we're going to track this number. And if it's getting smaller, doesn't mean we can't get short. It's just that we're not expecting the bottom to fall out of the market without this player. So we got 29,000 on with all players short, and we got 8,700 all players short in this contract. We are looking to sell to retest support or take it out. And like Mark pointed out, stops below 1100. They've just got to be there and in a significant number. So back to the note, day session. We'll see if we can get in that 20 area. If this contract starts to sell, we will have wished we bought 24, 25.